This is a sacred story concerning the power given through fasting to a young man who was clean, and pure, and free from sin, and whose name was Winasatakiu. No one can ever bear this name again because he was so powerful. This young man said to his mother, "Make me a pair of moccasins, for I am going to travel to yonder village. I start tomorrow." In the morning he took his blanket, bow and arrows, and his magic flute and passed through the village. So he took a big road over which he journeyed. He arrived early the next day where there were many wigwams. When he drew near one of the lodges, he stopped and stood outside a little way off until the host of the house came out and saw him. "Where do you come from?" asked the host. "I come from the village nearby," answered Winasatakiu. "Come inside," the host said. So they both entered together and they ate together. When they had finished eating, the host said, "Come out with me, and we will sit on the scaffold that has been erected for that purpose." They talked together, sitting on the scaffold. "Why did you come here?" the host asked. Winasatakiu was vague with his answer. So the host said, "Then I must tell you, there are lots of young men in this world, and there are many who are pure, innocent, and clean. Over there is our great chief's house, and he has some daughters. That is why all the young men in this world come here, to be near his house. That is why they gather here. These girls hate all the youths who come, and they send them away. But tonight we will both go over to look at the other young men who flock there." Winasatakiu agreed. Later that evening they went over to the chief's house. Winasatakiu was carrying his magic flute. When they arrived, they saw a crowd of young men standing there, coaxing and courting. The men each entered the wigwam in turn to speak to the daughters, but each man was ordered to leave. And so, the young men left the wigwam one by one and went away. But seeing this did not dissuade Winasatakiu. He returned to his host's house and sat on the scaffold. Then, he played his flute. The women of the village asked each other, "Who can that be playing? Who is he?" Soon, however, everyone knew his name. The next day, Winasatakiu went to the chief's house to see the daughters. They let him inside and he found them to all be beautiful. But one of the daughters had a special eye for Winasatakiu. She wanted to know him better. Eventually, Winasatakiu and the chief's daughter got married. They lived together. In the first year, Winasatakiu was a famous hunter and great in power. Nothing was hard for him. Then Winasatakiu wanted to live in his old village. They both moved from her village to his village. There they lived with his mother. It so happened that whenever there was a feast in Winasatakiu's village, he would attend. After one of these feasts, Winasatakiu said to his wife, "Make me a pair of moccasins, I'm going to join a war party." She made him a pair of moccasins and when it came time for the war party to leave, Winasatakiu went with them. He left the village with them, but once out of sight of everybody, he abandoned the war party. Instead, he went to another village where he had another woman. He convinced this woman's parents to tell his family that he had been killed. Everybody in Winasatakiu's village believed the lie. Winasatakiu thought that he was successful in his scheme. In the evenings, he sat on a hill and played his flute, thinking he was alone. But his song was heard and recognized by someone near the hill collecting wood. It was his discarded wife. She knew then that he had not been killed. She threw down her axe and it hit a big tree that broke into pieces. Then a mouse ran out. She was about to kill the mouse when it shouted, "Don't kill me." She was startled, and the mouse decided to speak again. "Do you hear a flute song at the top of that hill?" "Yes," she said. "It is your husband," said the mouse. "And he is staying with another woman." When she heard this, the woman became enraged. Seeing this, the mouse said, "In your home, on your shelf you will see a bundle. In it are dried bones. The bones represent your man's death." She returned to her wigwam and found the bundle of bones just like the mouse said. She grabbed it and walked towards the flute. She got to the hill and saw the village that Winasatakiu had been living in. So she sat down right there, in sight of the whole village, and began to sing her own magic song, directing it against him, for she also had great power. Her song meant that she was offended and would not have him live with her again, and her song told that she was a god. The villagers listened and were frightened, for they heard her say that her name was Uchikasakau, really a god woman. The deserted wife sang this song for 4 days at this place, and all the people heard and were frightened, knowing her to be a great-powered god woman. On the 4th and last day, in the morning, she threw herself on the ground and rolled over and over like a horse, and when she had finished, she had become a small animal, a fisher. As a fisher, she went to his wigwam to kill them both. Even their relatives. She chased them all over this earth before she caught them and bit them to death. She cried, "I am now so mad that nothing can ever pacify me. I will never go home again, but as I am really possessed of power I will make a sign for those who are to people the world in the future, and they will say of me that I did right." So she jumped up and ascended into the sky. She is still there now as Uchikanau, the fisher constellation.